the IzzSo TTEN TV digital debates, where we aim to provide a platform for discussing many of the serious issues in Trinidad and Tobago affecting you leading up to the local government elections and then sometime next year when it's announced the general elections. We aim to provide a platform for discussing many issues. Tonight, we have four main issues, including leadership and governance, the economy and business, national and citizen security, and employment, youth, and citizen participation. We have persons associated with newer political groups, but we've also decided to include Fixing TNT and NGO because we believe that the NGOs and civil society groups have a part to play in national discussion and discourse. So without further ado, I'm Paul Richards. Let's go straight to our panel, to the introductions. Of course, our first on my immediate right is the former mayor of Port of Spain. He is the chairman of the Port of Spain People's Movement. Good evening to Mr. Louis Singh, and thank you for joining us. Next, of course, someone who's been able to do quite a lot and make quite a bit of progress in terms of activism in Trinidad and Tobago. From Fixing TNT, its founder, Kirk. Kirk, thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Paul. Thanks for having us.
And, of course, a long-time Labour Union stalwart with the Movement for Social Justice. We welcome Mr. David Abdullah. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
And, of course, the youngest member of our panel, one of the youngest politicians in Trinidad and Tobago, former independent senator, and, of course, the founder of the Progressive Party, Mr. Nikoli Edwards. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
All right. As we said before, this is the first in a series of discussions we aim to have leading up to the general election and the local government election coming up on December 2nd. So let's go straight to our panel and start with Mr. Louis Singh with your opening comments.
Thank you very much, Paula. Let me say that when I was invited to this panel, I was of the distinct impression that the discussion would focus primarily on the local government elections, and that is to be welcomed, particularly when one listens to and looks at the campaigns being driven particularly by the incumbent government at central level. One gets the feeling that the campaign is not about local government, that it is very much about the coming general elections. But more importantly, it troubles me that this is a party that has campaigned since 1959 about local government reform. This is a political organization that has, as it were, ruled the roost in Port of Spain for 60 unbroken years. It campaigned on local government elections in its general election campaign and its last local government election campaign. We are going into local government elections on December 2nd, and there has been no reform. One wonders where this government is taking us with respect to local government, given that local government is perhaps the vehicle that could truly build the communities spread across Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Kirk, with your opening comments.
Well, good evening to your viewers and listeners in Trinidad and Tobago and around the world. We're going into another election cycle without the patrimony and the monies of the people of Trinidad and Tobago being protected. Yet another administration is has come and promised campaign finance laws, promised procurement legislation laws. We're going into yet another election cycle without the people's money being protected. I think that is a serious concern, one that has to be very urgently addressed. And all of the political parties now, between now and local government general elections, should be called upon to walk the campaign finance legislation talk. Even in the absence of campaign finance legislation, tell the country where you're getting your money. Give the country the assurance that there will be audited financials throughout the campaign, maybe every three months and 6 months into the campaigns. So I think the most important thing that we need right now, because for us corruption is the ultimate evil. Corruption is why our crime rate is where it is, among a host of other things which we'll get into later on. Addressing corruption is the number one priority for Trinidad and Tobago, and that is something we intend to continue to be at the forefront of.
Thank you, Kirk, on behalf of Fixing TNT. David Abdullah, on behalf of the Movement for Social Justice.
Paul, good evening, and again, good evening to everyone who is listening and watching this program. For the MSJ, we have sensed that there's a mood in the country where people are really fed up And people have been fed up for a long time, it is true, and have tried to bring about change by simply changing parties in government successively from basically 1981 to now. But that has not resulted in fundamental change because neither the PNM nor the UNC are committed to constitutional reform, local government reform, campaign finance legislation, and all of those other things, because they're part of the problem, they're part of the status quo. For the MSJ, we are very clear that the status quo needs to be challenged and we need to change the status quo. And so we are saying that we have to start somewhere to start that change, and we're looking to start that change in this local government election and then move from there to the general election, because quite frankly, unless you have the right people in government who are with the right philosophy, with the right policies, and who are committed to change, fundamental change will not happen. You get change at the margins, but not fundamental change. And for us, in terms of local government, our philosophy really is that power should be in the hands of people where they live, in their communities, and with that philosophy, then the policies of local government follow.
Thank you, David. And Nikoli Edwards, on behalf of the Progressive Party, your opening comments.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for giving the opportunity to be here. And I want to acknowledge the fact that as the youngest person sitting here as part of one of the newest parties in Trinidad and Tobago, it speaks to the mere fact that the country as a whole is ready for something different. It's looking on to see where persons who traditionally have been clamoring for change and asking for things to be done in a particular manner, this is their time and this is the right opportunity for their voices to be heard. And I don't take that lightly whatsoever. Trinidad and Tobago is in a position right now where, as we look to local government elections and then general followed by the THE elections, we are at a defining point in our country's history. Are we going to continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, or are we going to walk the talk? And I think that these elections are a prime opportunity for the citizens of this country to really say what in fact what they want. We cannot continue this tribal voting in this country. It has led us to a place where we're almost at rock bottom. But we have individuals in society who are here ready to answer the call. And are we going to give those individuals a chance? And more so, are we going to give ourselves a chance? Because I think more than anything, the political parties that have been coming up in the past couple of months and in years, they really speak to those individuals in society who have something to say, who've been locked out because of the two major political parties monopolizing the system. And are we really going to give a voice to the voiceless moving forward? So the Progressive Party is here to challenge the status quo and to really put forward some serious candidates as we seek to change our governance structure in this country.
Thank you, Nikoli. Now let's jump right in, following from what Nikoli said there. His perspective is that people are eager for something new. Our history in Trinidad and Tobago voting in the last 2-3 elections has been there's a 30% that will vote for the PNM, a 30% that will vote for the UNC. Voter turnout has never gone above 80%. So that leaves a very small number of persons who, if they are willing to move away from the major political parties, the People's National Movement and the UNC, have to be attracted to one of these 14 or 15 new entities. Mr. Lee Singh, do you think the country is ready for that kind of change?
I think the country is ready for that kind of change and more. Let me say, as we walk the communities of Port of Spain, particularly those on the periphery of the city, you get a sense that a number of people have found themselves in a situation where they believe there's no hope. And they say to you, quite frankly, that what are voting for? When you really inquire of them a little more about that statement, you get a sense that they have the strong feeling that this thing called the ballot is of no relevance to them. Now, that is a very dangerous thing in a democracy, because when people reject the ballot, history has shown us the world over where they go to ultimately. In the context of Port of Spain, and forgive me, I am focusing specifically on Port of Spain. I leave the national community to Nikoli, to Abdullah, and to my good friend Kirk. In the context of Port of Spain, there is a growing sense of despair, and it has much to do with the fact that the majority of the communities in Port of Spain are communities that have been neglected, I dare say abandoned. Now, people argue, I see it all the time online, that people are saying that I am, as it were, raising issues that are not real. When I speak to the issue of things like the latrine pit, there are people in West Trinidad who would call me and inquire of me, why is this an issue? But when one contemplates, not only is it wrong, having spent more than $1 trillion since 1974 to now, that this is a country that still have latrine pits in it. But in the last 4 years, this country has spent more than $200 billion, and we still have the latrine pits. When one contemplates how dangerous that is to health, but more importantly, the social impact it has on the people who are forced to use, sometimes 3 families using 1 latrine pit. We started a program when I was last at local government, which addressed the fundamentals. When I learned there were 3,000 latrine pits, I was amazed that successive mayors would have come and gone, that successive administrations would have come and gone, and left 3,000 latrine pits in the city.
Kirk, when is the local government election coming up? The opportunity for, if you are to share Mr. Leasing and Mr. Edwards' view, given that local government has a level of apathy in Trinidad and Tobago. I think the last vote that you had was just about 34%. And people have a general, whatever happened with local government because they don't feel it connects with their lives. Do you think it's an opportunity? Are people going to turn out differently this time around?
I'm not sure that they will. Trinidadians and Tobagonians have earned the right to be cynical. This is a country that is extremely blessed with resources, natural resources that provide us with an abundance of financial resources. I coined a phrase several years ago, which simply says, we're too rich to be so poor. This is one of the richest countries in the hemisphere. It was and still is, and has the potential to move beyond. In 2019, that as Louis and David, who were contesting the local government, Nikoli, are you contesting local as well? No. So they're walking in the communities. And when I do my work with civil society, as a member of civil society as well, that representation, when you ask people, what does representation mean to you? What do you want in a representative? That in 2019, in a country as wealthy as Trinidad and Tobago, people are still talking about roads and water. It's shameful. It is absolutely shameful. That can change.
But that's happened in the last 3-4 elections, local and general. What's going to make the difference this time around?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I do not think that it will happen now. I think there's opportunity for the general election, for a different conversation. I think the space is too short now for the conversation to change, or for the conversation to become fertile. Let me finish, Louis, please. But I do think coming up, there's an opportunity going into the general election where Trinidadians and Tobagonians should be given the opportunity or provided with the knowledge of how rich this country are, where we should have been, where we could have been, why we're not there, how we get there, and a clear path forward.
But we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with David and then Louis after this and more from Nikoli. This is the IzzSo TTEN TV digital debate. We'll take a short break. Stay with us.
Only give my chair like Waithe, yes?
For every like, story, emoji, meme, makeup challenge, filter, vlog drama, group chat update, and video, there's Flow Wi-Fi. Keep up with your favorite people, share the best memes, and never miss the next IG Live. Now you can stay connected in more neighborhoods across the country with the new Flow Wi-Fi. It's free and open to all Flow residential broadband customers. All you need is your Flow ID. Connect with us today at discoverflow.co.
Coming soon, there's now another way to connect with the TTPS, the TTPS mobile app. Get instant alerts, With unlimited countrywide data points, users will receive instant notifications when passing specific locations. Receive police updates, information on latest traffic disruptions, hazardous weather conditions, and missing person alerts. All sent straight to your phone in real time without the need for data. Users can also report crimes, anonymously share tips, provide feedback, and share helpful suggestions. Get the TTPS mobile app, available for download from November 1st, 2019.
The TV6 News is coming to TEN TV, weeknights Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. the following day. If you've missed it at 7, we've got you covered. Be in the know with a dedicated team of investigative journalists as they bring you the uncompromised facts. Yes, the full picture is coming to TEN TV. The TV6 News now on TEN TV, Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. the following day. On TEN TV, find yourself.
Watch TEN TV wherever you is now available on the Google Play Store. Simply download the TEN app, that's TTEN, to your favorite Android mobile device and stay connected with TEN TV. It's 10 on the go. Watch us wherever you go, whenever you want, and see your favorite music videos, local and Caribbean stars, and so much more. 10 Trinidad and Tobago Entertainment Network. Find yourself.
This ad brought to you by the PNM. This is the voice of the PNM. La Hokata. Meet us Thursday, 21st November. Regional Complex, Marjorie Padmore Avenue. We're red and we're rolling.
Forward is how we moving, so never stop believing. We getting it done.
Dr. Rowley and the powerful lineup of speakers will be out in full force, meeting you where you are as we get it done for you.
A new country we building, this country first we choosing, and every day we proving. We getting it done.
La Hokata, see you on Thursday, 7 p.m. Come support the PNM candidates in your area.
Red is how we rolling, it's PNM we voting. We doing it right, we doing it right. We getting it done.
Tune in live on all major radio and TV networks, YouTube, and our Facebook page. On December 2nd, vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
Welcome back to the IzzSo TEN TV digital debates. Our guests, Louis Leasing, Kirk Waithe, David Abdullah, and Nikoli Edwards. Before the break, we started talking about the local government elections and the impact it is expected to have, if any, minimally or otherwise, on the population, given the history of local government and its attraction of the voters being very low in Trinidad and Tobago. David Abdullah.
Yes, well, okay, people are cynical and have been cynical for very good reasons because there have been, both the PNM and UNC have failed them over the years. But people are very fed up. And I think that because they're so fed up, they are prepared to change. When I walk around, there are two things people say. They're fed up, and yes, we need change.
But you said that 3 years ago.
Yes, but 3 years was different from now. I'll tell you why. 2016 was shortly after the 2015 elections. There was still a certain amount of support in terms of the PNM. It was new in office, but 4 years have now elapsed. They have not done what they committed to do in 2015 in terms of corruption and other things, local government reform, etc. And people's lives are worse off now than they were 4 years ago. So the mood is different. Tell you, the mood is very different. And so people are prepared, I think, to make a step forward and do something differently in this election once they have the option. And they are having options in these local government elections. So contrary to Kirk, Louis, I think, and myself are probably walking more than you in communities where the majority live. Because I'll tell you, there's another thing in this country, because Trinidad and Tobago is not one country. There are many different Trinidad and Tobagos. And the inequality in this society is huge, it is growing, and people are feeling it. And so on the ground, people are saying, yes, we need to make a change. The key now is for people to have that courage to break free of the mental slavery of the red and the yellow, the PNM and the UNC, and actually come out and vote where there's an option.
Nikoli, your party is not contesting local government, but you're readying yourself for whenever the general scores.
Sure.
What are you hearing, being somebody more connected than the other three of the panelists, to young people?
Sure. Well, there has been a narrative in society being pushed about the unimportance of local government election. And I remember at the last local government election, the PNM put out a narrative that if you voted for them, they would guarantee local government reform. Now, that was in a sense misleading to the population because voting for a local government councillor has absolutely nothing to do with the legislation that goes before Parliament. The PNM is in office, so whether or not they won the last local government elections, it had a responsibility, that party, to put forward legislation. We find ourselves on the doorsteps of another local government election, and yet we have not been able to receive that reform that is necessary.
The PNM will say when they have a bill before GSC.
For sure. And the thing is, the population needs to really listen and be more attentive to what is going on. And I think especially young people are looking on and realizing that in some cases, we need to ensure that local government is strengthened. So we need decentralizing of the powers of central government. And I'm seeing many young people stepping forward to represent their burgesses in their constituencies. And that is encouraging. But the fact is, under the PNM and under the UNC, there is very little that you can get done if you really want to make an impact. So I would definitely encourage young people and just persons across Trinidad and Tobago to consider the options that are being put forward for local government, because it does have some relevance to your lives. And I think that while we may not get the kind of voter turnout we would hope for in this local government election, people will get an opportunity to see the divisiveness of the two political parties, and that will just more or less prime them for the general elections when they look for something different.
Do you all think, and I'll start with the releasing in this, given we've just seen the PNM ad come up, they're spending big money, the UNCs are also spending big money on ads, they have big ad campaigns because they have the resources. But is it connecting to the people? Nikoli said he thinks is a different narrative on the ground. Is that narrative building strong enough? We're just about a week and a half, 2 weeks to go, to make a difference with your strategy, releasing in terms of focusing on one area.
I want to say to you that I've approached this assignment like any good fisherman. On this occasion, I'm fishing for the hearts and minds of men to come to recognize that the responsibility to save this...
And women.
Well, I mean women.
I'm just saying, yeah, men
All
and
right.
women.
Men, women, and young people of voting age. I am doing this specifically intended to bring about a result that will change Port of Spain. Bear in mind, there has been one political organization in charge of the administration of the city of Port of Spain for 60 years. When I hear people complain about the state of Port of Spain and they complain about what is going on in the city, I have no one to hold accountable to other than that political institution. But you see, this thing about politics and people is where the issue rests. I don't know that any amount of advertisement at this time will convince anyone that that political party is getting anything done. It started off that it was red and ready. Well, it appears it was never ready. Now it is saying it is getting it done. I have asked everyone, what have they gotten done after the expenditure of $200+ billion and 4 years? You tell me what they have gotten done. They've gotten nothing done. So if you're coming back to the question, whether I feel, given the work that we are doing, we will convince people, let me say to you, I don't know what is in the hearts and minds of people. So I have gone out like any good fisherman. I have put the seine in the boat. I have put my bait, my hooks. I have my fish pots, which I will check when I get out there. And I've gone to the fishing.
But you're not the only fisherman in the sea.
But I want to say to you, I believe I'm a better fisherman than all of them.
But they have a better history of fishing than you.
No, they haven't. They have just been fortunate. They have been born into something. Those people who are there, they are just lucky at this time. But the test will come December 2nd, and we'll see whether they are fishermen or fishers of the hearts and minds of men.
Kirk, you, like me, and I'm a skeptic. I don't think there's going to be much change in the paradigm in Trinidad and Tobago, given the political and ethnic deadlock that we find ourselves in. And I'll say it plainly, the two major political parties being able to exploit that and other issues in the country very effectively for many years.
Well, I would actually like to see in this local government elections, I would love to see the likes of Louis and David do well. I think
liking to see them well doesn't necessarily translate into doing well.
I understand that. I'm just telling you what I would like to see. I do think, though, like I said, the LGE is just a week and a half away. I think there's tremendous opportunity for the next general election. I think that, you see, the advent of information technology, specifically with specific regard to social media, it makes what might have seemed impossible as recent as yesterday routine today. So everything is possible now. It is a matter of creating the right message, getting people excited, getting them engaged, getting them involved. We in Trinidad and Tobago, we need a revival of our national self-esteem. And then we need to take that to unprecedented levels. This is an amazing space. This is an absolutely amazing space. Again, I come back to we're too rich to be so poor. Trinidad and Tobago, the population must understand, was and is one of the richest countries in the world. That in local government elections, these gentlemen could be walking around and people telling them about water and roads is an insult.
And drains.
And
garbage.
And I
can challenge and say that if you walk a little further east or west, or north or south, you'll find people who say, well, I love my red and I love my yellow, just as many people, or probably more, as you will find at the Central.
And I do think that there are ways that the so-called tribal voting can be transcended. Going east and west with the same red till a dead and yellow till a dead. At the end of the day, you cannot, red till you're dead or yellow till you're dead, you cannot come out into the street and be guaranteed that a bus would pass at the time that it's supposed to pass. Whether you live in Caroni East or Laventille West, you go to the hospital and you might not be guaranteed a bed in this very rich country.
For the last 20 years.
I agree. There is a fundamental, wait, let me finish, bro. There's a fundamental difference now. You see, information and the ability to share and communicate and receive, it makes a tremendous difference.
There's a second factor, and I agree with Kirk, but there's a second factor, and that is a generational issue. The older generation is fairly set in their way, and relatively few of them are going to shift. Some will, but relatively few. The younger generation, quite frankly, are not prepared to tolerate the conditions.
But does that mean that they will be attracted to you?
Well, and I want to say that the people who are walking with us in my campaign, this afternoon I walked in Mount Lambert, and my other candidate was also walking, and all of the people who are walking were young people, all. All of our 5 candidates in San Fernando are under the age of 30, one is 21. And their support teams are all young people. Similarly, in Picton, Beetham, and in other parts, we have young people involved in the campaign. So that young people are coming out and getting a sense of movement, because the other thing we have to build to bring about that change is movement. People have to feel a part of a process and feel a sense of their own power to be able to change it. And once people feel that they're part of a movement that can bring about change, they're going to be involved in it.
I'm glad you said it in our last moments of this segment. 3 of you have political ambitions. Kirk is a social activist. What makes you a good leader, Nikoli? What's your track record that people can be attracted to? Because people are attracted to leaders who lead great parties who are transformational in their leadership approach.
Well, one, I lead by example. The mere fact that I sit here at the age of 28 leading a political party in Trinidad and Tobago, where we are told that we live in a 2-party system and all of these things, that I've been able to carve a path forward. I've been working in civil society for about the past 10 years, and my name in Trinidad and Tobago is synonymous with youth. because I've been a strong advocate for young people. It has led me in the parliament as an independent senator. I have sat on the procurement board of Trinidad and Tobago. I sit on the board as chairman of the San Fernando West Secondary Local School Board and many other positions. So I think that I'm not the average young person.
And both the PNM and the UNC have used arms that are very, very active.
Not very active. You may see them coming out and putting pictures on social media, but how many people are connected to these youth arms? And I can tell you for a fact that one of the things that drove me to this point is that I did not see myself being represented in either PNM or UNC. And when I looked at when election time comes around and the way they engage the young people, it felt to me like a papi show. You would only consider the young people when it comes to election so you can fill up buses to carry them to rally. And I have looked on at many PNM town hall meetings, and the same PNM young people have stepped up to the podium and said that the party has not been giving the young people an opportunity, and they have questioned the Prime Minister in terms of what programs and policies are in place for young people. You have this government here in place since 2015. We do not have a National Youth Council. Our youth policy expired in 2017. We're heading into 2020. So this government does not prioritize young people whatsoever, and not even the UNC, because the UNC, whilst they were sitting there for 2010 to 2015, how many young people can we say benefited from a situation where today they can stand as leaders? So we have to really take stock of these things, and I think young people, if we are serious about our destiny, we have to be the ones to lead it.
Louis, you've had leadership positions within the Port of Spain City Corporation, or a leadership position, I should say. What makes you a leader? Now you're the chairman of this party, this Port of Spain People's Party. What makes you an attractive leader, a leader that people can put their faith in?
Well, Paul, if my leadership qualities aren't known at this time, I'm in real trouble. I have been involved in leading organizations, building from the ground and turning it into something substantial. I would like to focus the minds of people and the viewers. If I weren't involved in Eastern Credit Union, along with my dear sister, my eldest sister, there wouldn't be an Eastern Credit Union today as you know it. If I weren't involved in radio, there would be no Power 102 where you go on every day and make a big scheme about it.
I make a big scheme about it.
No.
I understand you've built institutions.
Whenever I reflect on mass media, I say, but listen, Leasing is the only man who ever make a profit in state media and did it well, where everybody was able to be in the top 20. The list just goes on and on. But what I'm saying to you, whether I don't want people to judge me on yesterday, I want people to judge me on the possibility of a tomorrow, because that's what I've been selling to people. I have been saying to people out there that whether you feel good or bad, what I want you to understand is that if you do the same thing that you have been doing for 60 years, don't expect anything to improve.
If, let's presume the Port of Spain People's Movement does well in this local government elections, what's going to be the difference in the Port of Spain Corporation?
What will be the difference?
Given the present construct of local government.
Well, first of all, I have a document here. We don't have a manifesto. I have a plan with just 14 points.
And there are 14 of those out there from different political
No, they don't have that. Everybody come with a manifesto talking a lot of things that they don't mean. What we mean in here, what we give you here in this document is what we will deliver. May I also say to you that the Port of Spain Corporation is not a difficult institution to lead or to manage or to organize. But it has always been influenced by the politics of some unseen hand. For example, why...
Put a pin. We're going to get you to continue our thought after this. We're going to take a break. We come back with more after this. What do you really say?
I come in to tell them about your partner, Rowley, you know.
It's our game, our way. And these are the ways Republic Bank can make life easier for you. Get ready to make your power play with a Make It Happen loan. Establish your boundaries with an up to 100% mortgage. Get great rewards when you shop or get access to cash without a card. Don't get bowled out. Your dreams are never stumped if you're batting with Republic Bank. Visit republictt.com and find out more about all our services today. Republic Bank, official banking partner of the CPL.
IzzSo Media presents The Digital Debates. The Digital Debates. Local government campaigning is ongoing, and it's time to discuss your issues. Debate, discussion, decision. IzzSo Digital Debates. Wednesday 20th and 27th November, 8 p.m. Facebook Live, YouTube, streaming, and TTEN TV, and Power 102.1 FM. All streaming live. IzzSo Digital Debates. Featuring David Abdullah, Nikoli Edwards, Louis Leasing, Kirk Waithe, Caroline C. Prasad Bachin, Errol Fabian, and more.
IzzSo. IzzSo.
IzzSo Digital Debates.
Download the IzzSo app for iOS and Android devices.
For more details and to participate.
IzzSo. News travels fast.
Coming soon, there's now another way to connect with the TTPS, the TTPS mobile app. Get instant alerts. With unlimited countrywide data points, users will receive instant notifications when passing specific locations. Receive police updates, information on latest traffic disruptions, hazardous weather conditions, and missing person alerts. All sent straight to your phone in real time without the need for data. Users can also report crimes, anonymously share tips, provide feedback, and share helpful suggestions. Get the TTPS mobile app, available for download from November 1st, 2019.
The TV6 News is coming to TTEN TV, weeknights Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. the following day. If you've missed it at 7, we've got you covered. Be in the know with a dedicated team of investigative journalists as they bring you the uncompromised facts. Yes, the full picture is coming to TTEN TV. The TV6 News now on TTEN TV, Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. the following day. On TTEN TV, find yourself.
Welcome back to the IzzSo Digital Debates right here on TTEN TV. We're also streaming on YouTube. To search IzzSo and of course download the app for iOS and Android devices. We're also streaming on Facebook Live. Our guests Louis Leasing, Kirk Waithe, David Abdullah, and Nikoli Edwards. Mr. Leasing, you were talking about the Port of Spain Corporation and the transformation you would like to initiate should you be successful in the upcoming local government election.
Let me see. I was making the point that would the Port of Spain People's Movement be victorious and take control of the Port of Spain Corporation, which is our goal at this time, we would not have the shackles that certainly we had when I last worked at local government. I remember having situations where people would call me and say to me, go easy on that trade union. I met a situation where in one particular area of the corporation, the overtime bill was 65 to 70% of the basic wage bill. And for me, I saw that as an opportunity to, as it will, create a whole new shift and give coverage to the city 24 hours, 24/7. And I sought to introduce that. But that was not a friendly move to the trade union because the trade union, by and large, recognized that overtime had become very much part of the package of the employees. And that is their responsibility. But when I have the people whom I feel should be supporting me, telling me to go easy on the trade union, it was easy for me to say to them, if I can't fix something when we're in opposition, how will you be able to fix it when we're in government? And it is one of the reasons why we find ourselves in so many difficulties, because people are not given to taking firm positions based on the facts and the principles. People are doing things based on the moment, what is popular to do at a time. This country has got to move away from that and begin to accept that there is a method, there is a way that we do things that is of the greater benefit to the republic rather than to an individual or groups of individuals. So that, coming back to the Port of Spain Corporation, it is important that I illustrate by way of examples so that people will better understand what I'm saying.
Keep it tight.
We had a situation where in Port of Spain, people were never trained. How do you expect people to do a job and they're not trained? So we took steps to train these people. How did we do it? The proceeds from the record, which was a form of discipline on the society, those proceeds that came to the corporation, i.e. the surpluses after the people the wrecking people were paid, that was put into a fund and that was utilized to train people on a consistent and organized basis. That is just a small illustration of things that must be done. I'm not saying that that is how I'm going to fund it on this occasion, because I really don't know what I will meet. Bear in mind, I saw money being spent, and I hope somebody will tell me that this is important, don't stop me on it. During the last 2 weekends in St. James and Woodbrook, there were trucks giving out 800-gallon water tanks and 400-gallon water tanks to residents. They're just pulling up outside the road and giving people water tanks. Where is that money coming from? I am told it is coming from the Port of Spain Corporation.
But of course, I'm going to change it to our last topic under leadership and governance, and something that riveted the country and should quite frankly continue to rivet the country for the foreseeable future, and it's the issue of the Darrell Smith report. And it speaks directly to leadership, governance, and how you deal with these kinds of situations as leaders and as political entities in Trinidad and Tobago. That to me, and I'll say it plainly again, that issue was an opportunity for Trinidad and Tobago to send a message about a particular type of alleged behavior in the way it was investigated and the way it was handled. And I don't think the population is satisfied with the outcome, whether you want to go on the left side or the right side of the debate where that is concerned. Kirk, what do you think about that? And what do you think the shortcomings were where that is concerned and the missed opportunity?
Well,
and this is without assigning innocence or guilt to a particular person.
Well, we unfortunately have a prime minister who is on record as describing women as golf courses that need to be groomed. And that says it all about his view on gender-related issues.
His supporters will say he appointed a female president of the Senate, and a female Speaker of the House.
Window dressing.
Yeah. As I was saying, it didn't start with Darrell Smith. We can go back to the Rolf Balgobin issue at Angostura, where Rolf Balgobin was a government-appointed chairman. Rolf Balgobin is an alleged serial sexual harasser. His alleged activities go way back. And he was kept on until this water became more than flour. Again, I go back to the Prime Minister's approach and attitude towards women. Leadership creates culture, period. Leadership creates culture. If that is what you have at the head, that is what will continue throughout the organization.
The Prime Minister will say, well, I appointed a committee of powerful women to investigate thoroughly this Darrell Smith issue. And the committee came back X and Y, and the report was unusable, la-di-da, and it seems...
May I add to that?
I'm going to let Kurt finish first.
Yeah. Well, I'm not interested in getting into a debate with the Prime Minister. I'm interested in just dealing with the facts as they are. The facts are that $150,000 were spent to settle a matter, allegedly to settle a matter that had to do with sexual harassment. Again, I come back to the Prime Minister's attitude towards women. That was not the only derogatory comment that the Prime Minister has made with respect to women. Sexual harassment, I've been saying over the past couple of weeks, and I've been linking them. This administration, and probably the previous, has as much interest in addressing issues of corruption as they do sexual harassment. And that is none. There's no genuine interest in addressing sexual harassment issues. A lot of the change that has to come from the people. The people have to insist.
Well, if we had to agree with your perspective, why aren't the people demanding more? A different
why
approach
what?
to these. Why aren't the people demanding more? a different outcome and a different approach to dealing with these very, very serious issues?
I'll tell you a part of why is because we live in a small, and this is an excuse. It's an unacceptable excuse, but it is a real excuse. We live in a small society where reprisal is real. Reprisal is real, and it is a fair. You look at what's happening with a lot of the businesses that have not been receiving their VAT refunds. You have businesses closing down. You have businesses that cannot pay staff, but they're afraid to speak up because they're not sure where they would end up then in the queue to be paid. That we have to overcome. That we have to fix.
So
this issue of reprisal
food is more important than integrity?
I'll tell you this, and I've said publicly that we have a business community that is as dependent on the government as anybody they say suffer the dependency syndrome. We have a business community that for the most part, in large part, is spineless and greedy. And the spinelessness is fueled by the greed. We have a business community, in many cases, that seeks first and foremost to protect their turf. By that I mean their contracts. No different from a supposed bandit protecting his or her turf. All of that needs to change. We live in a small society. Reprisal is a real issue. And we have had administrations that are painfully vindictive. Successive administrations have attempted to attack me personally, attack my name, attack my business. What we do is above board. Everything we do is above board.
David Abdullah.
Yeah, I agree with Kirk. I think that, well, on several counts. Firstly, on the issue of vindictiveness. I mean, at a very basic level, people were being told to go to PNM rallies, URP, CPEP workers, and so on. And if they didn't go, they were told you wouldn't have a job tomorrow morning. So it is at that level. And so there is a certain fear which people have to overcome. And that's one thing. So I agree with Kirk in terms of that, and I agree with him in terms of the majority of the members of the business community protecting their interests and being quiet about a lot of other things. On the specific issue of the Darrell Smith report, I made a statement saying that on that issue alone, it demonstrates that the Rowley government and the Prime Minister himself has failed, and that is reason for them to be removed from office. Of course, when I say removed from office, in terms of the elections that are coming up. And all of the, it was the way in which it was handled. So bits and pieces were being put out into the public domain only because of public pressure, and we have to thank Kirk and others for raising that public pressure. Without that public pressure, those bits and pieces would not have even emerged in the public domain. And so how it was handled, whether the committee members erred at the last hurdle, whether what they said is, listen, this is as far as we could go, and therefore, before it goes public, it goes back to the Prime Minister, which is where he then ought to have called in Darrell Smith and said, this is what the facts seem to be, what is your position on it? But that never happened. So there was an opportunity for Darrell Smith to defend himself against the allegations, but through a different mechanism other than that of the committee. And that was really the Prime Minister himself.
The Prime Minister is on the record as saying Darrell Smith was meted out the ultimate sanction in losing his job. And he dealt with the issue of the IR part of it, where the minister involved himself at the time in the payout of the $150,000 to the alleged victim. And then he put it in the hands of this committee. That's his record.
The reason that was the ultimate sanction is because we do not have sexual harassment legislation. So that is the sole reason that was the ultimate sanction. The ultimate sanction for sexual harassment, for sexual harassment, if you're found guilty. The ultimate, I'm not speaking specifically to Darrell Smith here. The ultimate sanction for sexual harassment, if you're found guilty, should be more than being fired. It should be, there should be recourse where you're fined or potential jail time. But for that to happen, you need sexual harassment legislation, which the government really needs to treat with urgency. And let me just say this as well, for the record, that Darrell Smith matter is now the subject of a police investigation, which we called for, and we're happy that one has been launched.
Nikoli Edwards, why was there a sublime silence in the wider population for something this serious, without even ascribing innocence or guilt, because of the seriousness of the allegations? and the complexity of the 150,000 taxpayers' dollars involved.
But on one end, I do agree with what is being said in terms of reprisal, because in Trinidad and Tobago, you have to be very careful about what you say, who you call out, because you can lose your job the next day. And then without a job, how can you feed your family? How can you take care of things around you? But on the other end, I do think that persons had been very vocal about this issue. I can tell you for a fact that when this story first broke, I was very vocal on it. I was in London at the time and I did a live video that went viral, speaking about the character of Daryl Smith, and I can share stories with you about Daryl Smith's character.
Don't do that.
I won't, of course.
You work with your own lawyer.
My point is that the way the Prime Minister handled that situation was less than desirable, insofar as you were shifting him from one ministry to be a junior minister in another ministry. So it clearly shows the Prime Minister and this government's track record, where they feel as though small diversions or small changes would make a big difference in society. But in this matter, that was not the case. And I think that the Prime Minister had an opportunity to even call for the resignation of Daryl Smith, to ask Mr. Smith for his resignation.
But you fired him.
No, you fired him from the government, but he's still sitting as an MP.
Well, the Prime Minister has no remit over that.
The Prime Minister can call for his resignation, because we have seen in cases where it would have been Anil Roberts, Herbert Volney, even Jack Warner resigning for their position as a member of Parliament. So it is very much possible.
Anil Roberts resigned.
Yeah, but where he did so when there could be no election, no by-election.
The benchmark had passed.
Regardless of what.
Gentlemen, I want to focus on something in this thing that goes way back to Dr. Williams. If today Trinidad and Tobago has a culture of corruption, I believe the person who is to be held accountable for that is the father of the nation, Dr. Williams. I have said it repeatedly. Had Dr. Williams investigated, arrested, and incarcerated, I don't mean Dr. Williams per se, but had he caused the actions to be taken against fellows like O'Halloran and others, perhaps today there would be no culture of corruption in government in this country. Because people would have known from day one, if you put your hand in the tilt and take the people's money, you will either get it cut off or you will go to prison.
I think that's a promise. We've got to take a break and we will come back with more. We're with the IzzSo and TTEN TV digital debates. We'll come back with more after this short break.
Our game, our way. And these are some of the ways Republic Bank can make life easier for you. Get ready to make your power play with a Make It Happen loan. Establish your boundaries with an up to 100% mortgage. Get great rewards when you shop or get access to cash without a card. Don't get bowled out. Your dreams are never stumped if you're batting with Republic Bank. Visit republictt.com and find out more about all our services today. Republic Bank, official banking partner of the CPF.
Watch TTEN TV wherever you go. TTEN TV is now available on the Google Play Store. Simply download the TTEN app, that's TTEN, to your favorite Android mobile device and stay connected with TTEN TV. It's TTEN on the go. Watch us wherever you go, whenever you want, and see your favorite music videos, local and Caribbean stars, and so much more. TTEN, Trinidad and Tobago Entertainment Network. Find yourself.
This ad brought to you by the PNM. This is the voice of the PNM. La Hokata. Meet us Thursday, 21st November. Regional Complex, Marjorie Padmore Avenue. We're red and we're rolling.
Forward is how we moving, so never stop believing. We getting it done.
Dr. Rowley and the powerful lineup of speakers will be out in full force, meeting you where you are as we get it done for you.
A new country we building, this country first we choosing, and every day we proving. We getting it done.
La Hokata, see you on Thursday, 7 p.m. Come support the PNM candidates in your area.
Red is how we rolling, it's PNM we voting. We doing it right, we doing it right, we getting it done.
Tune in live on all major radio and TV networks, YouTube and our Facebook page. On December 2nd, vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
For every like, story, emoji, meme, makeup challenge, filter, vlog drama, group chat update, and video, there's Flow Wi-Fi. Keep up with your favorite people, share the best memes, and never miss the next IG Live. Now you can stay connected in more neighborhoods across the country with the new Flow Wi-Fi. It's free and open to all Flow residential broadband customers. All you need is your Flow ID. Connect with us today at discoverflow.co.
Welcome back to the IzzSo Digital Debates right here on TTEN TV. Thank you for joining us. Our panel is Louis Leasing, Kirk, Waithe, David Abdullah, and Nikoli. And for those of you asking online about why Kirk Waithe is here, because we believe that the discussion of national issues should involve civil society and NGO groups as part of the wider discussion. It should not only include politicians or political aspirants. Next week, right here at the same time from 8 p.m., we will be having Errol Fabian, Carolyn C. Prasad Bachan, Fuad Abubakar, and Afra Raymond as our guests on the IzzSo debates as we continue all the way through local elections into general elections 2020. Let's go back to our panel. Mr. Leasing, you wanted to make a point.
So I was making the point that in the same way that because we have failed to address the corruption issue in the very earliest of governance, of government in Trinidad and Tobago, it has now come all the way down. And today I want to believe, people believe, if you're not thieving, you're not in government. That has to stop. And the only way to stop it is to change the two parties, is to ensure that neither of the two parties, red or yellow, ever see the corridors of power again. Now that is the assignment. Let me also say to you that the issues that we're addressing here with Daryl Smith, it is not Daryl Smith. It happens that Daryl Smith is the object of the discussion. We should really be debating and discussing the question of the Prime Minister's judgment and the question of the Prime Minister's approach to governance. That is where we will find the answers why we are having to deal with that kind of issue. It is not Daryl Smith alone. It was Marlene McDonald before. And when I listened to the Prime Minister's own defense about why he chose Marlene McDonald, even though he had the files with all the information that a 3-year-old child could read and understand why they should not go with the incumbent person for Port of Spain South. He went with it. The Prime Minister does not have good judgment. Now, people are scared to speak about the Prime Minister in this country. People are scared to speak about ministers in this country because they fear that he will get on one of his platforms where his bandwagon is there and assault your person. Well, then, so be it. As I have said repeatedly, I have no neck. You can't chop it off. You follow what I'm saying?
I'm glad you said it.
And the point, therefore, must be raised. How do we manage a situation where we have people who, by using the most violent language, and that is what is causing the governance of this country real grief. The language and the behavior, the non-verbal, is both violent in its presentation. And so people are scared to do what is right, which is to say, stand up and be counted and to speak the truth.
Some would say you're in a position to do that because you're financially independent. That's not endorsing apathy or a lack of integrity, but I'll just leave it at that. We have to move on to our next two segments because this time is flying quickly. And it's a natural segue to our next major overriding topic, which is national and citizen security and the crime in Trinidad and Tobago. We couldn't have this discussion without focusing on that. Let me start with Nikoli on that. Sure. In terms of young people, the news is, I mean, I'm in media, so you get to a point where you're not even reacting, which is a sad human condition, to become accustomed to a mother and a son gunned down, and 5 murders or 6 murders in one day, and there is a desensitization of the population because we've been so accustomed now to the murder rate of close to over 500 over the last 10, 15 years. We're heading fast, it seems, based on, I think we're at 475 today. And we see that with a sense of ease, sadly, in a population of 1.4 million. What are young people telling you about their situations, their sense of security or lack thereof, and the issue of crime as it affects their lives?
Now, we have to understand that young people are the #1 perpetrators and victims of crime and violence in Trinidad and Tobago. And the manner in which we've been approaching crime-fighting initiatives in this country has not worked, and it will not work. We have to change course when it comes to these issues. Now, I would have been fortunate enough to study mediation, so conflict resolution, and looking at these themes as it relates to crime and violence in our society. Actually, my thesis was ADR in a litigious society. It is an avenue that we have not been trying adequately enough. Now, I know that the judiciary had embarked upon a peer resolution.
Is that going to work when somebody is part of a gang, and I understand there are over 200 gangs in Trinidad and Tobago now, with over 4,000 gang members, who are socialized in a completely different manner to you, who do not think legitimate means of working hard 8 hours a day and getting $4,000 a job as a starter job is an option, because what they are able to attract, and I'm not legitimizing it in any way, is $50,000 from a gang leader, and I don't share the same life perspective as you.
Sure. Well, for one, clearly the alternative to an approach of this kind, which is forced by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, has not been working. And these threats in society about bringing back the hangman and all of these things, these are not working either. What we have to ensure is that our social safety net in this country is strong enough. We don't have persons in society. First of all, we don't know how to deal with conflict in our own lives. When we look at the instances of crime and violence, it's usually either gang warfare or things related to that, and or domestic violence, because people don't know how to treat with their own private matters in a way that will ensure a win-win situation. So we have to put the institutional stability necessary to bring about change. We don't have school psychologists. We don't have mental health being treated with properly. At the end of it all, when we look at the unemployment rate or the lack of opportunities in society, some people see it as necessary to head down a path where they may feel comforted by the gang members because they show them certain modes of affection that they don't even get in their own family or what have you. And we have a narrative that is being pushed about zessing and all of these different things that people feel as though that is the way to get fast money. We don't build in society the kind of morals and values necessary to bring back this sweet Trinidad and Tobago. So I do think firmly that an approach where some people may say it be a soft approach, it may be community policing and these different modes, but we have to look at it differently. Putting more guns in the hands of police officers, putting more vehicles on the streets, those things are not going to solve the issue. We have to prevent crime, not simply solve it and things of that nature.
David, are we underestimating the link between white and blue-collar crime in the context of corruption and money laundering and drug running and illegal gun running, being and those persons who really have resources as posing as legitimate business, passing those issues through Trinidad and Tobago, resulting in what we see as the blue-collar crime and the gang warfare in the streets? Are we dealing with that in a parallel and equatorial way?
No, we are not. But let me before I deal with that frontally, let me just say, yesterday I was at the funeral of one of my activists, Damian Howie, who was killed in front of 8 of his 10 children. And so I just want to, if there any of the people in Marbella are looking, just to say, once again, our support and solidarity and so on. Because just imagine now, children ages 1, the youngest daughter turned 5, I think 2 days after he was killed. And children between the ages of 5 and 15 actually saw the gunman put a bullet into their father's head after he had been shot before. So that trauma is something that we then have to also deal with, And I think
some months ago, a young man saw his mother gunned down coming from a funeral.
Well, yes, and also to try to ensure that his children now don't feel, and the rest of the community don't feel that the way to deal with it is by revenge and so on, because that then just reinforces the cycle of violence. But we aren't, as a country, dealing with crime in an even-handed way, so that there's discrimination. There are young men who are in jail, as we know, for 5, 10, 15 years on remand for relatively minor offenses. Cases don't get called. I think there was one case that was settled 20-something years after
I heard this
the
morning,
incident.
17 years on remand.
Right. So you cannot have a criminal justice system that is so broken and then say you're dealing with crime and violence. So that's what one level, the criminal justice system is not fair. It discriminates against certain sections of the society.
But then and I'll make a bold statement, who benefits from the 3,500 remandees? Who benefits from the status quo remaining as it is?
For one, the company that transports the prisoners up and down, right? They get hundreds of millions of dollars every year to transport people up and down from the prison to the courts all over the place.
Are we being conspiracy theorists?
No, crime pays,
Well,
and we fail to recognize that.
It's not necessarily being conspiracy. It's a matter of people buttering their own bread and who may therefore finance political parties.
They're exploiting financial situation that exists. They didn't create it.
Yes, but governments that have power can say we're going to put a stop to that. Because the prison service used to transport prisoners before, But we decided that the way to go is by contracting out services.
The prison service didn't get $80 million a year.
No, they didn't. But the point I'm making is that the whole philosophy of contracting out services, local government bodies used to have steamrollers and all kinds of equipment to pave roads. All of a sudden, every contract to pave roads goes to a few contractors. And you create a contractocracy, which is Wayne Kubla Singh's term, which fuels corruption and so on, and finds its way back into party election campaign expenditure. But the other aspect of it is that white-collar crime has not been dealt with frontally. And you're absolutely right. Money laundering and the drug trade is probably 25 to 30% of this country's economy. That is not being dealt with.
The AG will say he's bringing legislation to follow the monies, but several bills on the table to deal with white-collar crime.
Whose money has been followed to the point where they have been brought before the courts, are on trial, or have gone to jail? Anybody? No. So that the issue, for example, of dealing with a special prosecutor, which we had proposed 4 years ago, that has only now surfaced in relation to Cambridge Analytica, but not in relation to alleged acts of corruption between 2010 and 2015, or even before 2010, and so on. So governments have been soft on corruption. I was told by Prime Minister before, well, yes, we're hearing about corruption, but I can't do anything about it frontally when sitting as political leaders of the partnership. So the issue of corruption is something that is very real, and unless that and money laundering and the drug trade are dealt with, you're not going to get a handle as well on the other things. And there are many other interventions.
It's interesting you say that, because the then Minister of National Security is the now hero, Gary Griffith. Kirk, Waithe, is Gary Griffith the answer? I'm not being facetious. Gary Griffith, in terms of his ability to transform the operational arm of law enforcement in Trinidad and Tobago, the TG Police Service, without the other parallel agencies being effective and efficient. The judiciary.
The short answer is no. But corruption is the ultimate evil, in my respectful view. Corruption destroys families, it destroys communities, it destroys economies and countries. We've created a society of so who's me, basically, in Trinidad and Tobago. And again, leadership creates culture. So the thuggery, and thuggery can be used at the word thuggery can be used at different levels. Some thugs use the pen. Some thugs use a gun. We do not treat the thugs that use the pen, who cause infinitely more damage than any thug that uses a gun. We do not treat with them equitably, as you say. I think it has to be a multi-pronged approach. So we need immediate, short, long, medium and long-term solutions. I think Nikoli is right. The most effective way to effectively treat with crime is through prevention. There are a number of ways to do that. Managing the roads is one way, especially in a country like Trinidad and Tobago. Everything passes on the roads. Every illegal gun, every illegal drug, every kidnapped victim, every drunk driver, they pass on the nation's roads. When we manage our roads effectively, we will, I promise you, start seeing crime come down. Effective and efficient law enforcement requires three components in my respectful view. One, people have to know they could get caught. Right now, as we stand, as we sit here, the benefits, the rewards outweigh the cost. People have to know they could get caught. People have to know that once they're caught, there is swift and objective justice. That speaks to making the judiciary efficient. And then there has to be meaningful consequence. You bring 10 of the most hardened criminals, blue and white collar, into this studio right now. Give them a metal pole and tell them to stick it in that electrical socket. They won't do it because people understand consequence. I'm big on traffic. The breathalyzer, the seatbelt law, and the speed gun. Every single Trinbagonian could tell you of at least one person that they know whose approach to drinking and driving has been positively impacted with the advent of the breathalyzer. Consequence, swift justice, meaning, you could get caught, swift justice, meaningful consequence. Seatbelts usage in this country went from 10 to 15% to 85-90% in a matter of 3 months.
And then went back down.
No, it didn't go back down. It is still very high. Simply because, and you tell that from the statistics, you're seeing fewer and fewer people being thrown from windscreens and so on. Understand this, when I started Arrive Alive in 2005, road fatalities were between probably 250 going to 300. We just crossed 100, which is still 100 too many. One life lost is too many. You look at the speed guns. Speed was transformed in this country. The day that the police said the speed guns, I did an interview with you shortly after that.
And consistency.
Exactly. There has to be enforcement, but there also has to be, and that's why we started the program Hire One More Now. And I think the private sector has a critical role to play.
Take a break. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Louis Singh will comment on crime before he thinks I'm marginalizing him. We're going to take a break. These are the debates. We come up with the Louis Singh's comment on crime and national security after this. Stay with us.
Need cash but don't have your card? Now there's Cardless Cash. Available only via the Republic mobile app and Republic Online. Access up to $500 daily at any Blue machine. Download the Republic mobile app today.
Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
IzzSo Media presents The Digital Debates. The Digital Debates. Local government campaigning is ongoing, and it's time to discuss your issues. Debate, discussion, decision. IzzSo Digital Debates. Wednesday 20th and 27th November, 8 p.m. Facebook Live, YouTube, streaming, and TTEN TV, and Power 102.1 FM. All streaming live. IzzSo Digital Debates. Featuring David Abdullah, Nikoli Edwards, Louis Singh, Kirk Waithe, Caroline C. Prasad-Bachin, Errol Fabian, and more.
IzzSo. IzzSo.
IzzSo Digital Debates.
Download the IzzSo app for iOS and Android devices.
For more details and to participate.
IzzSo. News travels fast.
Coming soon, there's now another way to connect with the TTPS, the TTPS mobile app. Get instant alerts. With unlimited countrywide data points, users will receive instant notifications when passing specific locations. Receive police updates, information on latest traffic disruptions, hazardous weather conditions, and missing person alerts. All sent straight to your phone in real time without the need for data. Users can also report crimes, anonymously share tips, provide feedback, and share helpful suggestions. Get the TTPS mobile app, available for download from November 1st, 2019.
Welcome back. You're viewing the IzzSo and TTEN TV digital debates, where we aim to provide a platform for many of the political aspirants and entities to talk about the major issues affecting you leading up to local government elections into general elections next year. Of course, next week we will have in studio Errol Fabian, Caroline C. Prasad-Bachin, Fuad Abubakar, and social activist Afra Raymond, our guest in this hour. Nikoli Edwards, David Abdullah, Kirk Waithe, and Louis Singh. Kirk, your final point before we go to Mr. Lee.
Yeah, just the private sector has a role to play in effectively addressing this crime situation. The private sector can create opportunity for a lot of these young people, these young at-risk people, And we have to find, they have to be motivated to do that. We're asking them, just shave a little off your bottom line. Shave a little off your bottom line because it benefits the country and by extension you in the long run.
Mr. Leasing.
And you may even want to add to that. Ask each employee to give $10 towards employing a new person, in terms of people who are affected. Paul, let me say to you that the issue of crime will never be fixed in this country, even if we have 1,000 Gary Griffiths. Because we are approaching the issue of fixing crime from a perspective of guns, more police cars, more bulletproof vests, and so on and so forth. We have got to listen to that commercial which says, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And if it is that people are killing people, the solutions and the answers will be found in addressing it from a people's perspective. When we have a situation that we have so many 14-year-old girls who are having children, a 14-year-old girl cannot be a mother, nor a 16-year-old boy a father. And so we've got to take a different perspective. How do we provide, as it were, a buffer to the offsprings of these 14-year-old girls? We need more daycare centers, nursery schools. We need after-school care centers. And because that 14-year-old girl would never have finished her studies nor is she able to comprehend and communicate, we need to have adult literacy centers. We need to have computer literacy centers. I make this point. I heard the mayor recently say that he wants to Wi-Fi the whole of Woodford Square. They don't need it in Woodford Square. What we need is for them to Wi-Fi all of the communities on the periphery of Port of Spain. And in doing that, we will find that not only did we invent the steel pan, but we will invent many more things. There are patents waiting to happen in Port of Spain, particularly from those communities of the city. My own feeling is that until we take a different perspective in dealing with the crime, we will always have the nature and the violence attached to the crime. We need to go further. We need to move to compulsory national service for people between the ages of 15 and 25 years who are neither gainfully employed in work or study.
Or receiving gate.
Well, if you're not working or studying, I think gate covers the studying. If you're not working or studying, you need to come into compulsory national service where we begin to bring you back into the mainstream and the productivity of the country. We have experimented with guns and police cars and what have you for most of 30 years. I am asking this country to finally begin to take a different perspective in how we deal with crime.
In the last 15 minutes, one party says Cambridge Analytica is relevant. The other party says it's a political narrative and distraction. Let me start with Louis on this.
Well, every time I hear about Cambridge Analytica and it comes from the PNM, I see email gate. And I want to believe that the time has come. It isn't that I am in denial about what Cambridge Analytica is capable of. They are very capable of doing things. But I am not going to spend time nor resources if I were in the government trying to work out whether the last government was involved in that kind of activity. The evidence is there for everybody to see what went on. The question is, I also saw the People's National Movement as a listed candidate of Cambridge Analytica. What is the issue on that? I am not hearing the party.
When you say a listed candidate, what do you mean?
They had a list of their clients. And I saw, I think there were 14 or something like that on the list. Now, that might be fake news. But until somebody comes to me and says, well, look, it isn't fake news, I will be guided by the fact that the PNM might also have been a client of Cambridge Analytica. We therefore have got to stop wasting time on these kinds of things because this country spent a whole heap of money investigating Emailgate. As I remember, the minute I saw the document, I told anybody who would listen that is fake and that is false. Where are we today after spending our unborn children's money on something like that?
Kirk,
I think Christopher Wiley is the person that should be of most interest to the police. He is, with respect to any Trinidad and Tobago laws that have been broken, and that's all I'll say on that, because I agree with Louis. Talking about that is a waste of time. What I'd like to get to is the issue of campaign finance.
We're coming to that.
Okay.
David.
No, well, then I'll take my time to tell you about Cambridge.
But that's the question, sir.
No, well,
we don't have to stay long, I just want to get
sure,
the perspective.
The more important question, I think, like I said, Christopher Waithe is the only person I've seen who seems to have broken any law so far. He should be interviewed by the police.
But he may have been, depending on who you listen to, facilitated or not by state entities.
Again, Christopher Waithe has pretty much admitted to breaching the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. So he's the most significant person of interest. I think the bigger issue is not Cambridge Analytica, but that meeting that the UNC allegedly had, where they were they were giving people certain tasks to go to state agencies to get information on citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to use their data. What business does a political party have doing that? I think that the UNC those are the more important questions that I think the UNC has to answer.
David?
Yeah, there is something that is of importance, namely that according to the statements made by Christopher Waithe, the contracts were given through a government Ministry of National Security, but information was being collected for private use by the party. That is a violation of the Integrity in Public Life Act. You cannot use public money for private purposes.
But there's no contract. There's not a single piece of documentation that has been put forward. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you this, David. The then Minister of National Security, who was Gary Griffith, ran Cambridge Analytica from his office.
Yeah, okay, so the point I'm making is none of us have seen any evidence of it, but that issue has to be put to rest. We cannot continue to have fundamental issues being put out in the public domain and nothing is resolved. So
you believe the huge expenditure on Emailgate was worth it?
The whole Emailgate
investigation... It was a fraud from day one.
The whole approach to it was flawed. The investigative process was flawed. And the reason why it was flawed is that because the people who were in government at the time never wanted it to be done properly, in the same way that Darrell Smith's thing was flawed, and so many other things have been flawed. And so the country is always left with what was really the truth. And we never know the truth, and that is a bad thing.
Nikoli,
so I'm simply saying it must be investigated.
The approach that I think the country needs to take when it comes to this issue is how do we prevent another Cambridge Analytica situation from happening? So the conversation should not just rest simply because I honestly think that this government is using this situation as it has been using every single situation to blame the opposition and to use it to score political points. We have to contemplate how are we going to deal with protecting our data in Trinidad and Tobago moving forward. The mere fact is that we are being left behind when it comes to data usage, when it comes to transforming our public service in such a way where we're using the kinds of technology available to us. We should not in 2019 have to go to government department after government department to do all kinds of arduous tasks that we can do from the comfort of our home or from our smartphone. And I see this as a government more or less putting forward a narrative. This is why we can't go digital in certain areas, and we have to. So as long as the government continues to churn this kind of narrative, there will be many persons, and I have witnessed it myself. I went to the bank at a time and there was an older person who did not want to do digital banking or online banking because he was afraid of the hackers, and he was adamant that this was going to happen. If we have many persons being fearful like that, we are not going to move forward.
But of course, we have 8 minutes left, and I want to talk about the campaign finance reform, and as someone told me recently, campaign regulation in Trinidad and Tobago. The representation of the People's Act, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't even identify what a political party is.
Exactly.
So let me start with Louis. 1 minute, because we have your closing comments to come also.
I would want to choose to use this minute not to talk about campaign finance and reform, but to say very, very firmly that the issue of procurement legislation in this country is something that should be placed at the highest levels of the priority listing.
Thank you.
But it's tied to campaign.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
Because they both go to the core of the corruption.
They shake each other's hand.
I understand that well, but I would leave the issue of campaign financing to other people. I want to put the issue of procurement in a box, because many times people come to me and they say, well, you know, I tendered for so-and-so, and they waste my time. I say, well, why is that? They say because they had already decided who was going to get the contract. I'm saying to you,
10 that 100,000.
we have got to move from that. People have got to feel comfortable that if they tender for a contract in this country, it is above board, and that the people who are scrutinizing and evaluating are doing it in the best interest of the Republic.
Kirk, wait.
With respect to procurement legislation, I'll say this without fear of contradiction. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has everything it needs from the procurement board to effectively implement procurement legislation. I maintain that the Keith Rowley-led administration, just like the Kamala Persad-Bissessa-led administration, has no interest in effectively addressing corruption. Going to the issue of campaign financing. So again, I reiterate, the Keith Rowley-led administration, Minister Imber, I say without fear of contradiction, has everything that the government needs to bring it to Parliament, to get it passed, to send it to the President for it to be proclaimed, so that procurement legislation could be effectively implemented. The procurement board has been and is ready to go. With respect to campaign financing, here's a radical solution. We look at all of the ads that are being run, and we've been talking about them during the breaks, with the PNM ads, the UNC ads on the TV stations, even on this station. And this comes back to how we as a society just look out for our own interest. Why doesn't the media say to the government, we're not running your ads unless campaign finance legislation is
you say to your media owners?
I would have done that.
You didn't do it though.
I say I would have done that.
But the fact that you didn't do it,
Louis, you didn't do it.
The issue was not an issue in my time.
No, but of course it was.
Of course it was an issue in your time.
Louis, we on campaign financing since you own the Citadel Group or whichever group you owned. And I'm saying this. So I'm challenging the media. I'm challenging the media to take up the mantle. Tell the government of Trinidad and Tobago we're not running another ad until campaign finance legislation is effectively implemented. Tell all of these political parties, tell us exactly where every cent of your money has come from. Do that. In the absence of campaign finance legislation, whatever little you have, in the absence of campaign finance legislation, show the country your books.
David.
Yeah. All right, very quickly. First of all, it can't simply be about campaign finance. It has to be about party political financing, because they will simply collect money before the campaign. And
super PACs.
So it has to involve everything in that regard. So political parties.
It would include all of that.
No. We have to not talk about it simply as campaign financing. It has to be political parties should be registered and therefore have to provide annual audited financial statements, just like companies that are listed on the stock exchange. Trade unions have to provide annual audited financial statements, and an auditor appointed by.
Imagine we have regulation coming from NGOs, but not political parties.
Does the MSJ have audited financial?
We have had, yes.
Yes, you do.
We have had. We're not up to date, but we have had.
Isn't that interesting?
And we don't have two sets of books like PNM has and UNC has. Okay? We have one set of books.
Why are you telling me about
because when you and let me just make one of the points on the procurement issue. Very well aware, because I sat on the Joint Select Committee of Parliament dealing with procurement legislation between 2010 and 2012. One is that Dr. Rowley was a member of that committee. He attended perhaps 2 or 3 of the meetings over a period of a year and a half, right? Mr. Imber had a position that we can't have too strong a regulatory environment because that would prevent the government from implementation. The UNC, when it came to the crunch time to submit a report, they got nervous and said, if we have too strong a set of laws, then if the procurement regulator is a opposed person, opposite to us politically, they will then use that legislation to victimize us. They don't want it.
Closing comments, Nikoli.
Well, let me just say, to wrap everything in, as it relates to so many issues, we already have solutions available to us, whether it be campaign finance reform, because there was a Joint Select Committee that dealt with that, and we have a report from the Joint Select Committee. It is available on Parliament's website. As it relates to public procurement, having sat on the Procurement Board of Trinidad and Tobago, I can tell you that the Office of Procurement Regulation is ready, but we have a situation in this country where elections are about, so the government is not going to put legislation in place that will work against them when they have to give out contracts. This is the very reason why Trinidad and Tobago has to make a decision whether we're going to continue along the same lines as we have been for all of these years, or are we going to take a different path. My generation and the generations to come, we have rejected this kind of politics that is about, and we really are hoping for something different and are willing to put ourselves forward.
Closing comments?
Paul, I'm simply hoping that one day Trinidad and Tobago will grow up. And in growing up, I want to hope that the people, even at this late stage, the keys of the politics and the keys of the world will, just before they go to bed some nights, think about the unborn children in Trinidad and Tobago.
Kirk, wait.
I'll first of all tell you what we're not, as some people perpetuate. We're not a failed society. We're not a banana republic. We are an amazing space. Our cultural, religious, and ethnic diversity, our intellectual and capacity, our natural resources, our intellectual and creative capacity, our natural resources that provide us with an abundance of financial resources, coupled with our small geographic area and minute population, provide Trinidad and Tobago all of the ingredients necessary to create a society that the world would want to model. It is time now that we begin to unleash that potential.
We have to leave it there.
So I got no chance about
15 seconds.
These guys took my time. Okay, so very quickly, change is a constant in everybody's life. And we now have a situation where the UNC and the PNM are seen to be flip sides of the same coin. We therefore have to bring about change, and there's an option for that going forward now.
Nikolai Edwards, David Abdullah, Kirk, Waithe, and Louis Singh, thank you all for coming and being with us as part of our inaugural IzzSo Digital Debates. Next week, we have Food Abubakar, Caroline C. Prasad Bachan, Aaron Fabian, and Afro Raymond right here on TTEN TV, Power 102.1 FM, and IzzSo.com. Thank you for viewing, and good night.
Sometimes you have an unexpected visitor, or 2, or 3. Now, keeping them connected is even easier than ever with the all-new Flow Wi-Fi. Your friends and family can stay connected on any portable device, and you can rest easy knowing that your home Wi-Fi is secure. All they need is their Flow ID to enjoy instant access to the Flow Wi-Fi network. It's free and open to all Flow residential broadband customers. Connect with us today at discoverflow.co to find out more about the free Flow Wi-Fi.
RST, join the club, join the team, fulfill your dreams. RST is your account, it's the key to managing your own money.
You got big plans to do big things, you want degrees and all it brings.
You got your almond drop, show your swag when you're leaning it, but you should really start with an account with your name on it. RST,
your money is safe and sound.
RST,
discounts when you shop around.
RST, join the club, join the team, fulfill your dreams.
Log on to rsteam.tt for cool discounts and rewards.
RST from Republic Bank.
The TTPS are on an intense surveillance patrol across Trinidad and Tobago, and a number of people are being caught by surprise.
It shows here that your insurance is in order, and it also shows here that your driver's permit is in order. But a very interesting observation also is that today happens to be your birthday. Is that correct, sir? Sir, for doing the right thing, and for today being your birthday, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service wants to give you and the family tickets to Movie Town to look at a movie today, sir. Yes. Right, so on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, this is our gift to you on your birthday and to your family. You have a happy birthday and continue doing the right thing, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For every like, story, emoji, meme, makeup challenge, filter, vlog drama, group chat update, and video, there's Flow Wi-Fi. Keep up with your favorite people, share the best memes, and never miss the next IG Live. Now you can stay connected in more neighborhoods across the country with the new Flow Wi-Fi. It's free and open to all Flow residential broadband customers. All you need is your Flow ID. Connect with us today at Discover Flow.
IzzSo Media presents The Digital Debates. The Digital Debates. Local government campaigning is ongoing, and it's time to discuss your issues. Debate, discussion, decision. IzzSo Digital Debates. Wednesday 20th and 27th November, 8 p.m. Facebook Live, YouTube, streaming, and TTEN TV, and Power 102.1 FM.